Welcome back to Pursuing Justice. I'm Harriet Hendel. Today, I'm delighted to introduce our guest, Seth Miller, who is the Executive Director of the Innocence Project of Florida, an organization which is very close to my heart. Seth is just not the power and passion behind this nonprofit organization, but he's a dear friend as well. And he's been head of the Innocence Project of Florida since 2006, and he's also the president of a worldwide organization that's called the Innocence Network, which is composed of all the Innocence projects here in the United States and many around the world. Our Florida project gets 1,000 letters a year asking for help. And Seth is going to tell us more about the Innocence Project of Florida. But our interview today and the next 3 weeks of interviews will center around a unique case, that of Dean McKee. As Dean's lawyer in that case, Seth is in a position to give us a deeper look into this case. And after we hear more in depth about the case, our next guest will be Dean McKee and his fiancée, Dani Cutler. It's such a pleasure to have you on today as my guest, Seth. Welcome, and tell us about the project and the work you do.
Well, thank you, Harriet, for having me. I'm thrilled to be on your podcast. The Innocence Project of Florida is a small nonprofit justice organization based out of Tallahassee, Florida. And as you said, we get about 1,000 requests for assistance a year from people who have claims of actual innocence. So our mission is threefold. We find and free innocent people in Florida's prisons. We help them reintegrate back into a free society, which is often different than the society they left, sometimes many decades before. And really the long-range work that we do and most lasting work we do is we work to change policies through the legislature, through the courts, through the United States Congress, and police and prosecutorial practices in order to prevent wrongful convictions before they happen. So instead of us trying to, write these cases one by one on the back end, we want to make sure that we can, if not eradicate, diminish the number of wrongful convictions that occur in Florida going forward. And we've had tremendous success, Harriet. We've been around since 2003, and we've helped free 21 individuals who are innocent, who together have spent more than 460 years in prison for crimes that they did not commit. And those are people that were taken from their families, separated from our communities, and put in cages in far-flung places in Florida, where they're sort of left to rot, in some cases to die in prison or die on death row. And, we've been able to give them freedom and give them a new lease on life.
Right. And hope, right. Often when I do presentations about the Innocence Project of Florida, I was a board member for the last 6 years. People will ask me, how does the organization decide which cases to accept and which cases to turn down? I don't have the answer to that question, but I know you do. And in addition to answering that, will you tell us how many people are on your staff?
Sure. So it's very difficult to pick our cases and figure out who might be innocent and who isn't. So we really have, if you can think of, 2 different categories of cases that we work on. So the first is cases that we'd call them DNA cases. And those are cases where there's, a rape or murder or some other violent crime where the perpetrator might have left a piece of themselves behind at the scene of the crime, either on the victim or on an important piece of evidence, such that we can test that evidence and we can demonstrate that it doesn't come from the person, our client, who's been convicted of the crime, but rather comes from some other person. In some instances, we can even match it through a database search or some other way to an actual person who committed the crime. And so those DNA cases are one set of cases that we take, and we've had, I think, 15 of the 21 individuals we've gotten out have been DNA exonerees, and we have a number of DNA cases still in the office. But in 2012, we realized that we needed to expand past DNA. Only about 10% of all cases even have a biological evidence component to make them susceptible to DNA testing. And so we realized that most of the exonerations that happen nationwide have nothing to do with DNA, and the same things that cause wrongful convictions in cases where we can prove someone innocent through DNA cause them in cases where DNA has no bearing on the case. So it was really important for us to expand past DNA. And so we can really change our intake model to really focus on cases where, when we're getting those initial communications, there's some indicators of innocence, whether it, what it looks like, what appears to be a faulty confession or coerced confession, whether it looks like there's a problematic or, really suggestive identification of the defendant, whether it looks like there was some problematic forensics that were used that we now know over the passage of time are no longer good science. If it looks like there was police or prosecutorial misconduct. So we're looking for the things that we know cause wrongful convictions, to cull those cases out and put investigative resources into them in order to develop legal claims that might allow us to prove that person innocent and get them out of prison. So it's a really difficult task, and we have a whole staff of people who work on these issues. So we have a 3-person intake staff that all they do is do the intake and screening of our cases to help our 2 lawyers pick our cases. And we have a staff investigator who goes out into the field and does all the field investigation interviews to support a decision to take a case, and certainly to support, investigation in cases where we've already accepted and are currently in litigation. We have a social worker on our staff to work with their clients while they're still in prison, to help prepare for their exoneration and transition into society, and to help them with their transitioning as long as it takes, for as long as they need to help, even after their exoneration. And we have additional fundraising communication staff that put on fundraising and awareness events and help us reach people in the community to help build support for these issues. Obviously, we need money to do our work, and we need the investment and commitment from the community in order to do that. And we have an office manager who, in the back end, just keeps everything running. And so if we need to. So we're a staff of 10 people, and doing a tremendously high volume of work, and on what is even today still a shoestring budget in comparison to other nonprofits.
And you also have a set of law interns, is that right?
Yeah, we have, Harriet, we have legal interns, but we have all kinds of interns. The most interesting thing about having a multifaceted office, we're sort of like a law firm, but we have all these other aspects, whether it's the transitional services or communications, fundraising, all of our legal staff. And so, because we're in a university town, we have Florida State University here. We have Florida A&M University, which is a historically Black university. We have a huge community college, Tallahassee Community College. We have a wonderful plethora of students who want to come work in our office, and we take students from all over the country too. We take them to help us pick our cases by doing comprehensive reviews of all the materials that we collect in cases to help us better understand the cases and make a case acceptance decision. But we also hire talented interns in the area of communications, web design, graphic design, fundraising. We have investigative interns. We have social work interns. And so pretty much all of our departments, to the extent we have the space to supervise them, get support from students, so the students can get really good experience working in a fast-paced nonprofit environment, but also we can enhance our capacity to do our work, because there's like an endless amount of work to do and not enough people to do it.
Right. Oh, that's I didn't realize that you had interns in various areas. I thought they were only just law intern. So I learned something today that I didn't know, before. All right. So you've given us kind of an overview. I wanted to pick up on just one thing that you said. You talked about fundraising, and you talked about, your budget. Why is it important to raise money for the Innocence Project of Florida? Don't you charge a fee to work with some of these people that you're helping?
No, in fact, Harriet, it's quite the opposite. The beauty of this work is that we get to do it completely pro bono on behalf of our clients. So no matter our clients' or their family's station in life, they used to be rich, now they're poor because of long-term incarceration, they've just always been poor. We take a lot of pride in being able to give all of our clients, regardless of wealth, high quality, free legal representation that really far exceeds anything that they could possibly have in another context. We pay for all aspects of the investigation, litigation of cases. We spare no expense when it comes to hiring experts in complex medical or forensic cases. We spend tons of money on records in order to make sure that we're fully informed about the cases. Really anything that needs to be done in order to fully and litigate the case in a way that goes far beyond what most others would do, we're willing to do. But that takes money. And the great thing about it is that when we go out and raise money, people understand that when they give us $100 or $500 or $1,000, that's money that is going to help our current and future clients get out of prison. So people who invest in this work are investing in the staff's ability, the experts here who do this work, their ability to find and free innocent people. They're investing in the people who do help in their successful transition into society, and they're investing in our ability to prevent future wrongful convictions. So it's really it's really a partnership in that way, and I think our base of supporters see it as a partnership. They are standing in the breach with us on behalf of our clients, and every year we have more people come into the fold. Our budget, continues to increase, allows us to hire more talented people to support our programmatic work, and just increases our capacity to get more innocent people out of prison. And so it's been steady growth over the last 15 years, and we're real proud of all the people who have helped us get to this point.
As you should be. All right. All right. So I'm trying to think if we want to go into Dean's case. I think you've given us a very good overview of how things work in the office. And the other thing that I think is important to say is the Innocence Project of Florida covers the entire state of Florida, no matter where a person is, you will go to them. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So, I always say that we have a 67 county legal practice, and that means that, we litigate cases on the farthest reaches of the Florida Panhandle over to Jacksonville, all the way down to, Southwest Florida to Miami and down to the Keys and everywhere in between. And so, most of our cases do come from the most populous places in Florida. Naturally, they send the most cases through the criminal justice system. So it makes sense that we would have, many Tampa and Pinellas and Palm Beach and Miami, Broward, Orlando, Jacksonville cases. But the interesting thing is that our clients, though, when they get sent to prison, they end up in far-flung places that aren't necessarily near where the county where they hailed from. So sometimes our clients are up in the Panhandle close to us, and we're able to get to them within an hour or two here in northern Florida. And then sometimes our clients are, down in prison in the Everglades or around Lake Okeechobee and are really far from us, which inhibits our ability to see them as much as we'd like, and we have to, have other means of communicating with them. And so it's really, one of the beauties of working in a state like Florida is that it's so big and has so many problems and so much work to do But that is also